Moving on to the hand. So the hand has wrist bones, the palm, which is the metacarpals, and then the fingers, which are called phalanges. There are 8 carpal bones in the wrist. And those bones we don't have to memorize. I'll go through them, but those ones you don't have to know. So you have the scaphoid, capitate. Is it trapezoid? I always forget how you pronounce it. I forget if it's trapezoid or trapezoid. I guess you could say either way. Trapezium, and then you have lunate, hamate, triquetrum, and then pisiform. There's a few bones that you can say more than one way. So those are the 8 carpal bones in your wrist. Then moving on to the metacarpals. So these are easier because it's just 1 through 5, and they're just numbered 1 through 5. So it's the first metacarpal for your thumb, 5th metacarpal for your pinky. They just go in order. Then phalanges, you have 2 for your thumb, and then you have 3 for your other fingers. And they're just labeled proximal, medial, and distal phalanges. The carpal bones articulate with the radius and ulna, along with the metacarpals. So they articulate proximally with the radius and ulna, and laterally with the metacarpals. And the metacarpals are what form your palm. What's going on out there? Oh, a tour. Okay. Yes.
So what are the other parts of your, I mean, the flesh parts of your palm? Is it mostly muscle or is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's muscle. The majority of what you feel as as flesh is your muscle. Is this person an adult or a kid? How can you tell it's an adult? That's right. Yeah. So no growth plates, right? You can see the white, which is not growth plates. What would that be? Exactly. So that's cartilage. So we don't see any lines at all on here. And so we know that this is an older person. I mean, not somebody who's really old necessarily, but definitely somebody who's not in their teens or even in their 20s, because you don't see lines along here at all. So it's very well closed off. Can I write these ones down? The distal ends of your metacarpals make up your knuckles. And so what you feel as your knuckles is this right here. It's the articular cartilage that joins with your phalanges to make your fingers. So the metacarpals articulate with the carpals and the phalanges. Phalanges are finger bones. Singular is phalanx or phalanx. Oops, sorry. And then when you pop your joints, what you're doing is you're moving air through that gap between your bones. And so that's what you hear as the pop is air rushing out of your joints. Mostly nitrogen gas between your joints, and you're just moving it around. That's what you feel as a pop. So generally, it's really not harmful at all for you to pop your joints. Of course, if you're really rough, that's a different story. But normal popping of your joints is not going to do anything to them at all. It's not going to harm it. It's only if, it's really, you're causing injury where you can feel pain. That would be a problem. But, you know, it sounds bad, but it's really not. There's nothing, you're not doing any damage to your body at all. You're just pulling air around through your joints. Okay, the pelvic girdle is made of two hip bones called the coxal bones. And so that's this right here, and that's this one. So they're joined together right here at the pubic symphysis. That's cartilage right there, but they're two separate bones. They join together at the front and the back. So on the posterior side, they join with this bone right here, called the sacrum. And together they make up the sacroiliac joint right here. So the sacrum fuses with the ilium, this top part of the hip bone, at this point right here. And in the front, they join anteriorly. The pelvis itself is made of several bones. It's made of the sacrum in the back, along with the tailbone, the coccyx, which you can't see in this picture, but it'd be below there. And the pelvic girdle, which is these two bones right here. Obturator foramen is this large hole, and that's a passageway for nerves and arteries to go through the leg and up to the spine. And the femur joins on to the hip bone at this point. So there's three bones that make up the hip, and they're colored. You can see them right here. The top one right here, the ilium. So that's the largest part of the hip bone. It flares outward. Ischium in green right here. That's the part that you sit on. So that's the posterior part of the hip bone. It supports your weight. And then pubis in red, that's the front part of the hip bone. And you can see right here, they all join together in this area where the femur articulates with. So the acetabulum is this depression right here for the femur to articulate. It comes from a few Latin words. Aceta is vinegar, and tabulum is a little bowl that they held vinegar in. So it's basically a vinegar bowl because it kind of looked like that. And so that's where that, so all these are Latin words, and sometimes it describes what they look like, and that's, so the Romans had a little vinegar bowl, and that's why they name it that. Does everybody have these ones down? And then these notches right here, it's just areas for nerves to run through, or blood vessels, or muscles to attach to. Greater sciatic notch, that's where the sciatic nerve goes through, and that's a common nerve that can be pinched. It goes through your leg up to your spine. We've already gone through this. I mean, it talks about male and female differences, and you already know that. Which one is which? Good. Right. So, the female, if you were to draw this with the line, it'd be more like a U shape right here. This is more of a V shape for the male. Female, you can see, has a wider ilium than the male. Those are the two biggest differences, and that this is more circular opening. This is more of a heart shape opening. But you're already familiar with all that, so we can move on to the femur. So that's the largest bone in the body. It's the hardest to break. Now, a more common fracture, so it's hard to fracture it, through the center right here. But a more common fracture would be through the neck of the femur. When you say, you break your hip, that's actually breaking the neck of the femur off. And that's more common when people are old who have osteoporosis, where the bone becomes hollow and it's more easily broken at that point. There's a lot of weight riding on the femur. So the head of the femur joins the acetabulum to form the hip right here.
Wait, where's the acetabulum?
Oh, so it would be the depression right here
Okay.
that the femur fits into. So it's on the hip bone.
Miss Holly?
Yes.
Well, this isn't really about fevers, but if you roll your ankle without spraining it, what is exactly happening?
Roll without spraining, but you still have an injury?
I mean, like, you know how your ankle can just kind of,
Right.
it can go out and like hurt for a while, but not
Mhm.
really.
Yeah, it's just a minor, maybe a minor tear. You can tear, you can have very small tears in your muscles or in your ligaments or tendons that are painful for a little bit, but they don't last for too long. Every time you exercise, you are tearing your muscles in very small amounts. And when the muscles regrow, they regrow bigger. And so the idea behind weightlifting or exercising that builds muscles is to actually tear your muscles so that when they grow back stronger. So any injury really is generally going to be a tearing of some part of the body. And so if you roll your ankle in it and you feel something, if you feel pain, then you have small tears, most likely in your ligaments. But also muscles could also have been torn, but usually ligaments in that area.
You know, like, why does your ankle turn in like that? I mean, obviously, like, if you're running on your new land strength, but how can it go in like unnaturally like that and then just go back to normal? How does
Because
that
you have
happen?
rubber band like ligaments, so you have ligaments are like rubber bands that attach to your foot and attach to your leg. And so they're supposed to snap back into place. It's kind of like pulling a slingshot back or a bow and arrow back. You can pull it back, but once you release it, it's going to go back to its natural state. And that's how it is with moving your ankle to an unnatural way. You can pull it that way with a lot of force, but then once you let go of it, it's going to go back the way it's supposed to go. Unless you tear the ligament, in which case it might not spring back the way it's supposed to.
Can it get like overstretched like a rubber band
Mhm.
and won't go back, or only if it tears?
No, I mean, well, if you were to overstretch it, you would tear it at that point. I mean, you can certainly hyperextend a part of the body, and you could stretch it too much to the point where it's not going to pull back. But generally, you're going to tear it before you do that. But that can certainly happen where you hyperextend. Your knee especially is a common place to hyperextend a joint, but you can certainly hyperextend ligaments where they're pulled too much and they don't spring back the way they're supposed to. So on your knee, the lateral and medial condyles, these bumps right here, articulate with the tibia and the lower leg. And then your kneecap is in the front of here. Oh, sure. And then the patella articulates with the femur. So you can see right here, it hits against the femur. And there's cartilage on either side, so that there's no friction between the kneecap and the femur. Then you have strong tendons, which attach the kneecap to the femur. So even though the kneecap is floating, it's attached to very strong tendons, so it doesn't really move a whole lot. And then what you feel as the bump below your knee is the shin bone right here. So there's this prominence right here. You know, you probably, whenever you go to the doctor and they hit your knee with the hammer, they're gonna, have you ever seen it before? They have a little hammer that they hit your knee with.
It's not like a baby hammer.
Yeah, it's like a
Like-
tiny little.
I don't think my doctor's ever done that
Like,
before.
what? Yeah, it's like a
How
tiny
does that
little
feel?
rubber.
They're like the rubber triangle. It's just sort of like
Miss
touching
Molly's
base.
gonna be my doctor.
They've never tested this before.
I mean, maybe.
Like,
I think your doctor just knows I have you. No, I'm just kidding. Never.
never take this and they never hit your knee with it.
Never.
Wow. That's kind of scary.
Do most doctors do that?
It's really good. Yeah, it's because you could have neurological damage, thyroid problems, like all kinds of different things that they could catch
I think
if
my
they
doctor
do
knows
that.
that I don't have those
Wait, the
problems.
lady, I don't do it either.
Yeah.
They like manipulate your joints, but they don't.
I mean, my doctor does all sorts of other stuff.
Huh.
But just.
Not
hit my
that.
leg with a hammer.
Really?
Nope.
That is so weird.
Your baby, like it's so weird and she's thinking like baby, you're like the opposite like reaction. She's like, isn't it also make sure your reflexes are really good?
Right,
Yeah,
which
make
would
sure your, like, joints
which would
are strong.
indicate like nerve problems or thyroid problems.
Maggie, we might both have neurological problems.
Because like it indicates like really serious problems if you don't have reflexes. So that's because like they hit right here, they hit this tendon right here, the patella tendon.
Yeah.
And so it's like that gap, you know, you have your kneecap, you can feel the gap.
Wait, should you do that to me right now to make sure?
We could try a little bit just to make sure things are okay. See if you have any reflexes, but then if they hit it and you're healthy, you're gonna kick your knee out, like, or kick your leg out, you can't really control it.
No, it's I'm so glad my doctor has
Wait,
it.
Miss Holly, you know the thing like when you're making your kids or you like run your hands like over somebody's knee?
Wait, what?
does that? Like your fingers, like you know when you like go out and it always made you like,
Oh, like tingle, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just nerves are being activated.
okay.
Yeah. Like that's why your funny bone feels the way it does when you hit it, because you're inactivating a nerve and it goes up to your brain doesn't know what it means. Like so when you hit a nerve on your, you know, your elbow right here, and it's activated and your brain gets a message, your brain like freaks out. It like doesn't know what to do with it. It's like, I don't know what this means. I know something's wrong, but I don't know what's wrong. And so it just sends out these signals that don't make any sense. And so you feel like tingling, you feel burning, you feel like this electricity because your brain is freaking out. Your nerve right here, the older nerve is freaking out, and like nobody knows what's going on. And
Yeah.
so
I think I saw something about that.
do what?
I saw something about that the other day.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was somebody like talking about that, how it was like so weird.
And that's why you feel, because your brain doesn't really know. It's not a pain sensation that it's sending, and your brain doesn't know what to do with it at that point. It's not like a temperature sensation. It's not a pain sensation. And so your brain knows something is going on, but so it's telling you something's going on, but it doesn't know what to tell you exactly is happening.
So everything.
Yeah.
I just imagine like the people from Inside Out, just like in your control room, just be like, what is this? And start smashing buttons.
That's accurate description. Yeah. That's pretty much what happens. And that's why it feels so weird when you hit your funny bone, because everything's freaking out in your body because of it.
Wait, so what happens to you when you don't like?
Maggie, you
When
don't
you
do
listen
it.
to that?
Oh, it depends, I guess, when you're listening to, but generally it's calming, isn't it? I mean, that's usually the idea. Yeah. Yeah, so in that case, it's a little bit different. I mean, that's more of just relaxing. Like that's what you're feeling. You're just deep relaxation.
You can do it to yourself. Not like, not how you do it.
And then move on to the tibia, your shin bone. So that, you know, you're gonna feel your kneecap up here. You're gonna feel a gap, which is this right here. Then you're gonna feel this other bony area below, and that's this tuberosity coming out of the tibia. So tibia is your shin bone, and then your fibula on your side. The only part you can really feel your fibula would be on your ankle right here. It makes the ankle bump right here. And besides that, it's not really noticeable on your leg. And then your tibia makes up the other side of your ankle.
Tibia, like, The one that's like larger?
Fibula is the small bone right here, and the tibia is the big one, and that you feel is your shin.
Oh, okay.
This tibia is on the medial side. It makes up the medial malleus. I always forget to say that. Malleolus. And that makes up your ankle side. The condyles articulate with the condyles of the femur. So you can see up here that these two condyles right here rest with the condyles of the femur. Medial malleolus is the bump on the inner part of the ankle. So the inward bump is from your tibia. The outward bump in your ankle is from the fibula.
Oh, that's totally right. We have two.
Right. And so it makes up the two bones.
No, I knew
Yeah.
that, but I just didn't really like.
You never think about like, where they're coming from, but they're from your tibia and your fibula.
Well, is that why like when you like flex your leg, you feel weird like dent in it or whatever?
Where exactly? No.
That's
I didn't-
in front of your calf
Is that the muscle or is that the
muscle?
bone?
Like, oh, it's.
A
I
dent.
think you're talking about both then. Like, I think you're seeing both, like
Yeah,
the bone
yeah,
and the, wait, let me see.
Like when you have that like dent.
you're seeing both.
Okay.
Your bone before muscles
Oh.
because muscle attached to bone. And so
Yeah.
you're seeing the attachment of muscle to the bone. So the fibula does not really bear much weight at all. Your tibia is what bears the weight of your leg.
So what purpose does the fibula do?
It's for attachment to muscles, and so it helps with rotating the leg. It forms your ankle too. It helps with ankle movement. And that's more of its purpose for movement, not so much for support. But most bones function is to attach to muscles. That's the main purpose of bone. And then attached to muscles, they can be moved. And it does, of course, strengthen and support the tibia, but its main purpose is not to support weight. All right, so the very bottom one, tibia articulates with the talus. The talus is your first ankle bone, and that's the bone that is mobile. The other ones in your ankle are not, they're set together, but the talus is the mobile one, which lets you move your foot up and down. So you can see it right here. It articulates with the tibia. This is the white cartilage that hits the tibia. There's 7 tarsal bones. Calcaneus makes your heel. And so what you feel is your heel bone is the calcaneus. And then talus next to it moves freely. And so that lets you move your foot up and down. And that joins with the tibia and the fibula. And you can see it better on the lateral side. You can see the talus right here makes up your heel. Sorry, calcaneus makes up your heel. And the talus is up here. The other 6 tarsal bones are bound together. And there's not much movement with these ones. That makes it what you feel as part of your foot. The calcaneus supports your body weight and provides an attachment for muscles to move the foot. Basically, there's this rubber band-like attachment from your heel to the mid part of your foot, and it creates an arch and a spring in your step. And so when you step down, it's pulled outward and then it springs you back up, and it allows you to have a spring in your step. People who are flat-footed have a hard time running because they don't have the spring in their step. They don't have this elasticity And so an arch helps with elasticity, helps with movement. And then being flat-footed can be painful. And also it can cause you to be slower.
What about having like a really high arch? Because I know
Mhm.
like my grandma has really high arches and so does like some people in my family. So how does that?
It depends. I mean, certainly there's going to be a point where it's going to be harmful to you and you're going to probably have pain. If you have good support in your shoes, you probably are going to have pain. But, if you get a good arch support, then that will be helpful to you. But it certainly could be to your benefit too. If you have a higher arch than normal, that could help you be more springy and faster on your feet. But it comes to a point when it's just the opposite and it actually hurts.
Yeah.
Miss Holly,
Yes.
is it bad for the bones in your foot to run on concrete barefoot?
Bad for your bones? Not usually. I mean, you have your skin, you have, muscles that protect the bones.
So the impact
So-
isn't going to do anything?
No, I've heard that actually we were designed to run
Yeah,
barefoot.
aren't those
I mean-
shoes that are like super thick, like actually pretty bad for you?
They
Like,
can
some
be,
shoes,
yeah.
like-
Like, I've heard that the humans were designed to actually run without shoes.
Yeah.
So,
Like this specifically top thing, I don't know, I feel like you can bruise the body. of your
I mean, you
foot.
certainly could. I mean, you can. I mean, you can tell by how you feel. If you're causing pain, it's not good for you. But if you're not causing pain to yourself, then it's not going to hurt you.
Is that why sometimes you feel like you run faster without shoes?
Yeah, I mean, the right kinds of, bad shoes are going to really cause you to, slow down. And if you have shoes that mimic how you feel barefoot, those are usually the best kinds of shoes. Because your feet are designed to have a spring, which lets you run
They
faster.
can also, sometimes like if you are running like barefoot though, at first it will hurt because you've been like conditioned, you run differently.
Mhm.
Like your foot, I forget, isn't it like your foot is supposed to hit the front of it first,
Mm.
but when you run with the super thick shoes, like the back of it hits first, so you have to like condition yourself and train yourself to run differently barefoot.
Mhm.
So like if you're just starting,
The back always hits first unless you're, or like a Native American.
I don't think it's supposed to though.
You're supposed to hit with your toes first, like
Yeah,
your toes.
well, not your toes, but like.
No, like the
front.
toe pad area. Yeah.
Yeah,
like-
like go literal. You're just. No, I hear you.
And the more you were to run barefoot, I mean, you're gonna build up a callus on your foot. You're gonna a really thick skin, and so that will also help with the pain and protect you from any future injury. But yeah, if you just start by running barefoot, it is gonna feel painful because you have thinner skin, and you're not at that point. You don't have the protection you would need to run, especially on concrete or hard surface barefoot.
They do make shoes for because the reason I know this is that my dad, I think a couple of years ago, he switched to like barefoot running shoes,
Mm.
so they're super duper thin. And that's what he said, because he said at first he could only run like a quarter of a mile with them, because it was just such a different way of
Yeah.
doing it.
Or it's like when you play guitar, you build up calluses. You have to, over time, you can do that, but at first it is gonna hurt. But then you get thicker skin and it's more comfortable. Yeah, people seem to be going more towards that, to thinner shoes, to shoes that are more like, your arch, natural arch in your foot. So metatarsals form the balls of the foot. So the part that you feel as, right here and right here, you can feel the condyles that are coming out. I think we'll stop here for today. Let me see what else. No, that's just all quizzes. We'll do that later. So we'll stop with this slide for today. So you still have some coloring worksheets that you didn't do yesterday. So you can start on those ones. I'll pass out a few labeling sheets too while you do those.